Hello, Helen here. Today I'm going to be making a card along with some others that I'm planning to send out to some of the wonderful people that have been working extra hard during this pandemic that's going on around the world. People like hospital workers, particularly for me, the supermarket workers, and also some of the nurses and doctors that have been doing the phone calls to homes, and I'll tell you about that in a bit. But I'm starting off by using a bit of Ranger watercolour paper, and I'm sticking it down with some painter's tape onto my craft mat, and I'm going to just block off the area that I'm going to make a card panel out of, and also an area within that I'm going to do some stenciling with some new product called Glitz Glimmer Gel, which is a Gina K product. Now this might look like a lot of taping down and masking off, but I've did a practice run with this Glitz glitter gel, and I found it's because it's water based, it was actually buckling the card that I was doing it on, so I'm trying to make sure that it keeps as flat as possible while it dries. And it's also why I'm using the Ranger watercolour paper, because it's a lot heavier weight. I'm using the smooth side of it, so taping all that off, and then I can tape my stencil on to the area that I want to stencil. The stencil that I'm using today I got from a set that I bought off AliExpress, but depending on what you've got in your stash, you could use any stencils really for this. It's just really having an area of stencil done with this glitter, this Glitz glitter gel. So it could be a floral one, it could be leaves, it could be geometric, anything you like. And I'll put the link of where I got this particular one in the description underneath the video here, and also over on my blog. Now the product I'm going to be using is Glitz Glitter Gel by Gina K. It comes in quite a range of really beautiful colours, but I decided to just get the white one because I thought, well, I could probably colour it with some inks, which is what I'm going to do today. I didn't know whether you knew that you could do that. For some reason I didn't push the record button when I was doing the gel with this card that was stuck right down, so I've had to revert back to some footage that I had of my first go at the colouring and doing the stencil with the gel. So it's going to look a little bit different. I didn't do as much sticking down of my card, but it'll show you how I went about mixing the gel with the inks, and then we'll go back to the finished result, because I did have footage of that. Sorry about that, it's a bit confusing. I've picked really soft colours because I just wanted a softness in the background, but you could definitely do a lot brighter colours and use it more of a feature if you wanted. So any of the lovely bright colours and inks. I'm not sure whether it would work with pigment or archival type inks, but it definitely works with the watercolour, which I think is probably what you'll have to stick with. So I mixed the yellow up and spread that around in some areas, and then mixed the pink up and filled in the areas that I'd missed. Now this product does dry really fast, so I'm making sure I clean my palette in between each of the colours, and then as soon as I've finished the putting the gel onto the stencil, I'm going to take that off and go and wash it immediately so that it doesn't remain on my stencil and it's ready to use next time. I used a re-inker that I had for the spun sugar colour, but I didn't have one for the squeeze lemonade, so that's why I used just by smushing the ink pad down on my craft mat. But with the re-inker it's perfect because you can drop it straight into the gel and it mixes really nicely. Now, while I'm finishing putting the gel on, I'll just tell you about why I'm making these thank you cards. My daughter and her partner had just moved to UK just in the last few weeks before the pandemic really hit, and the government suggested that they, all travellers from overseas, should return back to home. So by the time they managed to get flights back, they'd been in UK and Dublin for about 10 days. I think on their trip back through Dubai and then Sydney, they've ended up contracting the virus because they ended up, my daughter's partner got it first, and he got it the week that they arrived back, and then she got it the following week. Luckily they've only had quite mild cases, although she was, reasonably sick, but they certainly didn't have any of the lung issues that some people have been having. So we've been in complete quarantine in our household since Stephen got sick. Back to the card for a moment. Once I'd done the putting on the gel with the palette knife, I've ended up using this Deco foil stencil mate, and I've just run it down the card the full length just to be able to smooth out all the gel and make it nice and even. It makes a real difference. And then I can take the stencil off carefully and go and wash that. Now back to the second attempt at this, where I lost the footage. So I'm back to where I've got the card nicely secured down with the painter's tape, and I finished doing the stencil, peeled that off, and now I'm just going to peel off all the builder's, the painter's tape. And then what I'll do is put it aside to dry. I ended up leaving it overnight, and I've put some weights on it to make sure that it stayed nice and flat, and then I trimmed it out down and put it onto my card base, ready to start doing the rest of the card. So for my flowers on the card, I'm going to use this beautiful peony set. I'm going to use a couple of the leaves out of that set and one of the flowers. The other one's a Poppy Garden stamp set, and I'm going to use one of the flowers and then the sprigs of daisies out of that set and one of the sets of leaves. And then the third set is this Simple Beauty, and I'm going to use the cluster of daisies that's down in the bottom corner there. So I'm going to stamp them with Momento Tuxedo black ink because it's a Copic friendly ink, and I'm going to stamp all the ones that I think I'm going to need, and then I'm going to go ahead and colour them all. So with our government enforced lockdown, families have to stay in their homes but can go out for short walks just to get some fresh air and exercise, and also one member of the family can go down to the supermarkets. They're staying open and can do their grocery shopping. But because we've got 2 people in our family that have got COVID-19, we aren't allowed to leave our house at all, so, and rightly so. So we have had all sorts of problems trying to get our groceries and food and things. Some supermarkets here, or only just a couple of supermarkets, deliver, but it's really hard to get on their list to be able to have the food delivered. So one of the places I want to be able to send a card to is a little green grocers that we've got that's open, and they do have some supermarket bits and pieces. So I've been able to get things like bread and milk and some meats and all the vegetables from them, and they do deliver, and they've been delivering within just a couple of days of giving them an email. So they've been absolutely wonderful, thank goodness. And the other one is our local supermarket, who's been working day and night keeping open and keeping the shelves stocked and everything for everybody. So they've all been doing an amazing job. I also wanted to do a massive shout out to all the medical staff that have been working in the hospitals with the sick patients, but also the ones that have been doing the daily phone calls to any of the people that have been had the virus or have tested positive for it. They've been absolutely amazing. Now I've gone ahead and finished colouring all the flowers and leaves, and I've fussy cut them out. I'm really pleased how the background's turned out. It's just really beautiful in real life, just really super sparkly. So I'm just also cut out some parts to the sentiment I'm going to do. So I've just got this Poppy Stamps die called Thanks, and I've cut that out, one in black and two in white, and I'm just going to layer them up, gluing in between. It just gives a little bit of dimension and just makes it a little bit more of a substantial sentiment. Sentiment's going to go about up there, and now I'm just going to arrange the flowers and leaves in a pleasing arrangement sort of along the left hand side and down towards the bottom. I'm planning to have everything but the two main flowers glued straight down, and then I'll have the two flowers raised up on foam tape, which I'll just put some pieces on the back. Sorry, out of camera view again. Keep doing that, don't I? The Nuvo glue didn't look like it was going to stick very well on the glittery background, so I've changed over to the Aleene's tacky glue, which is definitely a lot stronger and thicker glue, so that definitely sticks better. Oh dear, I'm not doing very well with this video today. I've forgotten to push the record while I glued all the parts down as well. So anyway, I've glued them down, all the ones flat, and now I've just got to stick down the one that I've raised up with foam tape. flower arrangement done, and then I'm just going to glue the sentiment on towards the top there where I had it placed. So that's one of the cards finished. I've got a few more to make, and then I can deliver them when I'm able to get out of the house, of course. So please, everybody, keep your loved ones safe. I hope all goes well with all you people in other countries, and I'll see you next time. I'll have a Mother's Day card coming up. Thanks for stopping by. Bye for now.